By now, you know the framework of the story. An actress in the adult film industry, Stormy Daniels, real name Stephanie Clifford, claims she and citizen Donald Trump had a sexual encounter. Then, in the waning weeks of the 2016 presidential election, she was paid $130,000 in hush money by Mr. Trump's personal attorney, Michael Cohen. Cohen's office and hotel room were raided this week by the FBI, as authorities reportedly are looking into details about that payment. For his part, President Trump has denied the encounter with Ms. Daniels. He's also called the raid on his attorney's office a disgrace. What's the impact of this raid on the Daniels versus Trump case, and where will her attorney take this fight from here? Let's find out as Michael Avenatti joins us now. He's the attorney representing Stormy Daniels in her legal battle with President Trump. He is in New York City for this interview. Michael, Edward Bennett Williams, the great lawyer, was a dear friend of mine, and he told me once that when he represented a client, usually in criminal cases, his instructions were the client never speaks, only the lawyer speaks. You have a client who speaks out. Is that good for this case?
Well, you know, Larry, I would agree with that opinion, quite honestly, in most cases. I think that this is a very unique case for a variety of reasons. And quite frankly, no one will ever be able to muzzle Stormy Daniels again, certainly not in this context. So I could attempt to instruct her not to talk or not to communicate, but I would be wasting my breath. I think that I think she's very self-aware. I think that she wants to tell her story. I think that she's active on social media, and that's just the way it is. It comes with the territory, and so we just have to roll with it.
If you were advising Mr. Trump, would you advise him not to speak at all about this?
Larry, I'd advise Mr. Trump on a whole host of things. I don't know how many hours that would take, but that would be a multi-day meeting. But
Would that be
you know,
one
I
of
think
them?
the problem with that is well, it certainly would be. I mean, I don't think he should have mentioned the statements or made the statements that he did on Air Force One. I think that was a critical mistake. I think his recent comments attacking the good members of the FBI and as well as the U.S. attorneys in connection with this these warrants that were issued in the raids, I think that was a critical mistake. You know, generally this guy can't get out of his own way, and that's a very dangerous thing when you're a litigant, a party in litigation.
Isn't it rare to raid a lawyer's office if you're looking for information between a lawyer and a client that's supposed to be confidential?
Well, it's a very high bar in order to get those warrants issued, and I can assure you that due to the high-profile nature of this, that every T was crossed and every I dotted. This had to go through multiple layers of review before these warrants were even presented to the judge. I'm sure that the magistrate judge, scrutinized them in great detail before authorizing the searches. There's little doubt in my mind that there was more than adequate probable cause for these searches under the circumstances. It's a high bar to search a lawyer's office and home in general, let alone the personal lawyer to the President of the United States.
Why would an attorney pay out his own money to pay her $130,000 of his own money? Why? Do you know any lawyer who would do that?
You know, I know a lot of generous lawyers. I know a lot of lawyers that are very good to their clients, Larry. I don't know a single lawyer that would do that. And in fact, it gets even more ridiculous, Larry, because you left the part of the story out where Mr. Trump and Mr. Cohen want the American people to believe that this payment was actually made to someone that they thought was a liar and had no credibility. The whole story makes no sense, and it stinks.
Mr. Trump says that he knows nothing about it. If he knows nothing about it, how can he be a party to the suit? And how can he be involved if he didn't know anything about it?
This agreement, Larry, we are confident is going to be tossed out because Mr. Trump, according to his statements, didn't know anything about it. He never signed it, and we're confident that the court's going to see through this.
Why, Michael, have you decided to be so public in this?
Because we've decided that that's an approach that works in this case under the unique circumstances of this case, due to its high-profile nature, due to the parties involved. I think, there was a lot of individuals that questioned that approach, at least initially, 5 or 6 weeks ago. But as the last 5 or 6 weeks have shown, Larry, I think we've been spot on. I think we've been damn near perfect.
Michael, you told Rolling Stone you believe that Michael Cohen, the president's attorney, has been set up to take the fall. Explain.
Well, I think it started 7 to 10 days ago with some of the rhetoric that we heard from individuals associated with Mr. Trump. I think it continued last Thursday when he made the statements on Air Force One. He basically put the bullseye on his personal attorney's chest relating to his claims that he didn't know anything about the agreement, that everyone would have to ask Michael Cohen about the payment, et cetera. And the problem with this approach, Larry, is that strategy only works if you can rely on your fixer to keep his mouth shut and to actually take the bullet for you. And I don't think at the end of the day, Michael Cohen is built in a way to do that. I don't think he's smart enough, and I don't think he has the mettle to withstand the considerable amount of pressure and heat that is ultimately going to fall upon him.
Do you know Michael Cohen?
I know of him. I've met him on one occasion. I've had a lot of time to chat with a lot of people that know him personally. I've seen a lot of the statements that he's made. I've spent a lot of time researching him and learning about him. And Larry, I just don't see it. I mean, the problem is if you're going to pick a fixer at that level, a guy that you're going to entrust significant personal secrets with, you better pick somebody who is really smart, and you better pick somebody that's really tough. And I don't think Michael Cohen is either of those two.
Alan Dershowitz, taking another viewpoint, slams the ACLU for being silent during all of this. He said they should be jumping up and down about the raid on the lawyer's office. Was this an invasion that was unconstitutional?
Well, I don't think it's an invasion that's unconstitutional. It's not the first time that an attorney's office has been raided by the FBI. There's considerable protections that are put in place associated with that. It's not going to be the last time an attorney's office is raided by the FBI either. I have an enormous amount of respect for Alan based on his history and his decades of experience, but I'm not surprised that the ACLU is not jumping up and down, and I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that Michael Cohen is a Republican versus a Democrat. I think it has everything to do with the fact that there's nothing that suggests that this was improper.
Are you going to get to depose the president, do you think?
We hope so, Larry. We think there's considerable grounds to do so. We cite in our papers the Jones v. Clinton decision. We think that due to the legal positions that the president and Michael Cohen are taking in connection with our case, that there's a decent chance we're going to get to depose the president and Michael Cohen, although at this stage, I'd be shocked if Michael Cohen was deposed if he did not plead the Fifth Amendment. That would be shocking to me. Although I will tell you, Larry, that there's a lot of things in this case over the last 5 to 6 weeks that have shocked me. So I'm almost callous to it at this time.
Your client has a major interview coming in Penthouse magazine in which she says she answers all the questions that Anderson Cooper didn't ask. Do you know the content of that interview?
I don't, but the more and more reporting that occurs on it, the more nervous I get, Larry, quite honestly. So maybe I need to find out sooner rather than later.
So both lawyers have to be nervous about both clients.
Yeah, but I think I've got to be a lot less nervous than the other side. I think I have the smarter of the clients, Larry.
You recently tweeted that people should expect a major announcement regarding the efforts to identify the thug who threatened your client in Las Vegas parking lot. How close are we to know? What's the major announcement?
Well, I think we're a lot closer now than we were 48 hours ago, Larry. This case is moving at a breakneck pace. Lots happened in the last 48 hours with the FBI raids. There's been some other developments relating to the ID opportunity of the assailant. I'm not at liberty to get into the details quite yet, But suffice it to say that our case gets better every day.
You predicted that things could end very, very badly for Donald Trump. What's the worst case scenario for him?
Well, I think the worst case scenario, Larry, is that Michael Cohen, in an effort to save him and to save his family a lot of heartache, turns state's evidence and rolls over on the president and provides very incriminating, damaging information and testimony and evidence against the president. Now, where it goes from there, I think it's common sense that it could ultimately lead to charges being brought against the president or possibly his impeachment. I mean, people that are far more qualified and far smarter than I am will ultimately make those determinations. But that's what is meant by very, very badly.
Brian Kobatek, the incoming president of the Los Angeles Bar Association, told the LA Times, "You could be the perfect foil for the president because you understand Trump and are in Trump's head." If that's true, how did you get that? I know Trump 40 years and I'm bewildered. How did you get that knowledge?
Larry, that's an interesting question. I mean, Brian's comments are very kind. I don't know if he's right or wrong. Right now I'm doing a job to the very best of my abilities. I feel like I do have a unique skill set based on my life experiences that has allowed me to pursue this case in the way that we have. Things have worked out very, very well for us, but it's early. I mean, this is the first quarter. We're midway through the first quarter of this case. There's a lot of football left to play. There's a lot of case left to play. We don't ultimately know how this is going to work out. So, while the adulation and the kind words are very much appreciated, we're not reading all those headlines and resting on our laurels at this point, Larry.
You ever get the feeling, Michael, that you're in heavy territory here, taking on the leader of the free world?
Well, there's no question about that. I mean, this is a fairly surreal process. I thought long and hard before I agreed to take on this case. This was not just a snap decision. There's serious consequences associated with taking this case on, not just on a professional level, but on a personal level. Larry, my own personal belief is that, and this is just from my perspective, this is either going to end very, very well for me personally, or it's going to end very, very badly for me personally. And I don't know ultimately how it's going to end, but I took the case because it was a worthy cause, because I believed in my client. I thought my client had gotten a raw deal. I thought that she was being intimidated and threatened by people that were far more powerful than she was. I was offended by that. And so at this point, I'm just trying to get it over the goal line.
Michael, great talking with you. Look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Larry.